the No Ideas Original featuring Shannon, Mr. Rob, and Zane. Today we're joined by Dion Broadway,
Yes,
formerly of
sir.
the Strictly Roots. What's up, bro? How you doing?
Everything blessed, man. Just happy to be here. Every day I get up, I give thanks now.
That's the way it
Hmm.
should be.
Oh
So
yeah.
every
That's the
day.
way it should be. Yo, so how was it coming out of the Bronx, and who were your musical influences in the Bronx?
The Bronx, it was good coming out of the Bronx. We from a Caribbean background, Jamaica. So when the parents left over there, they came over here to, find work and farming, they call it. I was born in the Bronx. So I'm like one of those first generation X's up here. So it was good. Um, as far as influences, my uncle Leon, he introduced me to hip hop. Really, we was I didn't know him at the time, but we lived across the street from Mark the 45 King.
Wow.
So Leon, uncle, what I mean, he knew him. He brought tapes across the house to the house. I think the first MC I think I've heard, like I think it was an artist named Shambu.
Mm,
What a lot of people don't know about, well, we talking what, 1976, 75, 70, you know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
Shambu was the first person I heard. And then he had records like, Jimmy Spicer, that's a Dracula rap, and Spicer had a couple, another joint, but that's how I got introduced to hip hop. And then Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, that was the names I heard. I think I could have been attracted to the name Flash because of comic books at the time.
Right, right, right.
But I would have to say that I can remember like Shampoo, and then Jimmy Spicer was the first I heard. As far as influences go, I grew up in the culture, to be honest. So I think I was influenced by everybody. But who motivated me to make more moves? I think I gotta give credit. Like it's funny, like I gotta give credit to Melly Mel,
mm.
um, because he was dominant as far as sound in the beginning when it came to writing when I was younger. When I got older, it's like you have your KRS. Everybody was influenced like by Chris, by G Rap, Rakim. Then Kane came and killed. You know, Sean had came and killed. So it was a lot of people. I just grew up with hip hop,
Hmm.
so I can't give one person the credit,
Hmm.
but I definitely was a fan of the music for sure. You know what I mean?
It's funny you name Melly Mel because I think that Melly Mel sometimes get left off the list when people mention like pioneers. And to me, Melly Mel was like, in my opinion, one of the very first wordsmith. Like he was one of the first dudes who kind of took rap, I think, to the next level
Right.
and began to actually integrate wordplay into it. So to me, it's I'm happy to hear somebody finally give Melly Mel some props.
Oh no, Melly Mel. Oh, Kumo D, like
Yeah,
Melly Mel,
it's great.
Kumo D, and I think well now artists is giving him a lot of his credit, but I think Grandmaster Cass,
It's
honestly, is somebody who a lot of people may not know about, but that Cold Cut 4 was a serious, serious thing, and he was one of the main architects behind that. So I think Grandmaster Cass deserves a lot of credit
that's
that he
right.
don't deserve. There's other people in the mix. That era's a little bit before me, but Grandmaster Cass, because when I was in the valley, like Cold Crush 4, when they battled at the art, I don't even say the article, I'm not sure, but when they did that battle and when they had that love rap, killing it, love rap. Oh,
Yeah,
Spoonie G. I
40.
can't forget Spoonie G.
Yeah.
Spoonie G, the extreme, because I think love rap. I fell in love with love rap. The beat, boom, 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 bam. That was one of my favorite beats because it was easy to bang on the table at school and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So I definitely need to give Spoonie G his props for sure. Yeah, and then on the back of that, that's when I think they was on Enjoy. So that's when you had Cool G Rap was on one. I mean, not Cool G Rap. You had Spoonie G on one side, and then you had the Treacherous 3 on the other side. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. People used to buy vinyls. You know what I mean? But to get back to the question though, Wacky, like Bull Wackies is a legend. He's actually like the first reggae producer in America.
That's right.
With a studio.
Mm-hmm.
So he's he's known worldwide for that, to be a reggae pioneer. So I grew up in the studio, though it was more um, reggae music at the time. But being American born, I, I gravitated to hip hop primarily, though I always was around music. I grew up in like a Rastafarian kind of culture.
Yes, sir.
When I reflect about it, but Wacky's definitely is a pioneer. Shout out to Pop Dukes. He worked with the best of them. You know what I mean? So I grew up in music, to be honest.
Yeah, and your pops even got he has even music equipment in the Les Paul Museum as well.
Pardon me, what you say, God?
I said he has music equipment that he's built back then in the 70s that are now laid into the Les Paul Museum today.
Yeah, no, definitely an icon. I mean, in Japan, I mean worldwide, but in Japan, his following is crazy. I mean, Pops is an icon, man. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Anybody who know about music, reggae music, definitely knows about it. Last year they featured him in the Times, and they give him he's getting his flowers while he's alive. I spoke to him this morning actually.
One thing, I wasn't being on the set. I ain't no nigga.
What you said?
I wasn't on the set. I ain't no nigga.
It was interesting because I was hanging out one night. I seen Jay. That's when about what, 93, 94. He was more obscure at the time, and I seen him. I was out Strictly Roots doing this thing, so I was running up and down. I seen him. He was like, I was telling him, that record is hard. He's like, we getting ready to shoot the video in Miami. I said, I'm gonna fly down to that. He's like, just have your people. We talking big, right? Have your people call my people. You know what I mean? And then from there, I just flew down. And it's funny you should ask me about that because there's an infamous picture that floats around.
Yeah.
With me, Jay, Mike Geronimo,
Big,
definitely big, and there's another brother kneeling in the front. I never found out who he was. You know what I mean? But I didn't know about that picture until like years after. Yeah, I wasn't really taking a lot of flicks back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people were in the front of the camera back then.
Nah, it was funny though, because when I seen it, I think my cousin Bonds had sent it to me because Irv had posted it one time. And like the majority of the pictures I see in the back, I'm like, oh man, I forgot. Some pictures I didn't even know existed. You know what I mean? So that was one. I'm glad I stepped up for that one. That's gonna go down in history,
No doubt. Cause
nigga Foxy Brown. Shout out to Fox Boogie Brown. That's when she was just coming up spitting.
That video had a lot of cameos. And the way it was shot through was like, at that time, was like, all right, this is where hip hop is going. I could jump on. This is hot right here.
It was flavor. The production too. The way the production of that particular record was so raw. How they caught the essence of like how DJs would catch it. Like you had that feel to it. And it was an interesting time back then. Because I look at that as a renaissance time because there were so many artists who was spectacular in their own right. So many clicks were spectacular in their own right, and that's when the pen game was important. Having a style was important. People representing where they was from. That was important. It meant something to have the integrity in the game, and simultaneously the West Coast is making so much noise at that particular time.
Right.
So it was like we was absolutely attempting to be the best artists that we could be because it was so competitive. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you look at that time, there's so many people who could be overlooked in history if people are not true hip hop heads. You know?
That's right. And you had a lot of one hit wonders back then too. So every people kind of filled in and came in and left, and you don't even hear about them no more, man. Like I used to like Casanova Rudd.
Right, that's interesting. No, but seriously, when you think about it, right, it's like it reminds me of like the Bible, where it's like you hear a name in history, and then you don't realize how influential they were in a particular time and how they influenced the scene at the time.
That's right.
It's like because to me, when you had like a label at that time, it gave you an advantage because it was just more promotion, more people, more hands to spread the word about the particular music. So
Right.
you had people who were hot, but just depending on who they was, on,
Play was on.
marketing and promotion was a big factor,
That's right.
and connections. Because once you had somebody who had connection with BT, the box,
Right.
you was making some moves.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So that's how I looked at it though. But it was because it was clicky, right? You had boot camp out, you had the dog pound, you had that pre-firm.
Pre-firm. Right. And your
Yeah,
first,
but yeah, EP&D in them.
you came out on your own label, correct?
We came out on our own joint. You know what I mean? Beg No Friends. Big shout out to Big Fun and Fashion. We from the Valley, so we grew up jamming. I grew up like jamming, street jams. We used to have sounds come out.
I lived on Corson and Boston Road.
Okay.
And from right there by Burger King, you can hear you can stand
I was just thinking that when you said that. That was when, like, on Sundays, you can hear the music from miles around. Everybody just walking down Hammersley, down Needham. Everybody, people from the wall, Seco. Everybody just coming, and you just hear the music, and it just gets louder and louder.
Yes.
So it was a great time. People, that part of hip hop is the genesis. It's the nucleus of it all. You know what I mean? It's like the atom of everything, the element. And the culture has evolved to something totally different. Where I'm not hating on it, but it's just evolved. I don't even know. We don't really dictate the voice of the culture like at one time it was. So it's not in its purest form anymore.
Nah. And I agree, man.
Do you ever think
and the way production is made, I agree with you on that. Go ahead, Zane.
Do you ever think that I would say somewhat that type of essence has come back? I know fully for people to grasp, like a lot of the people that's going to be looking at this interview, like especially like the youngins, they would never be able to imagine the impact that the 90s had on us, and especially like the 80s too. But do you think that we can ever get back to somewhere near that type of feeling again? Because I feel like in the 80s and the 90s, it was so much of an overload of talent. Like you had Wu-Tang, you had, like I said, Mobb Deep, Tribe Called Quest, EPMD, Fat Boys, Run DMC, and so on and so on. So do you ever feel that there might be a way that we can tap back into some of that synergy that we had back in the day, and for people to actually really like appreciate that? Because right now I kind of feel that hip hop, it can get back somewhere to that place, but it's still kind of like oversaturated as far as like with corporate.
No, I don't think that would be no, because it's one of those concepts in where you had to be there, right? Because it's like in its core, it was was all new energy. It's like the Big Bang Theory, right? It's like something erupted, and out of that eruption, we had so much elements and force that carried it that it just kept exploding in this distance. It's just like a universal concept. So if you wasn't there at the Big Bang Theory, then you only gravitate to what aspect of the element that you caught, right? Where at that particular time, it was so pure that everything was all together. So we was hearing the hard with the consciousness. We was hearing the street with the talent. We was hearing people talk about subject matter, then talk about their skills, and then at the same time, it was really about how you was getting your message across. Then it was about production, right? The sound that you're hearing. You had your Marley Marl with his sound. And then we don't want to forget about the Queens brothers with his sound, because you got to remember when I think was it Herbie Lovebug? That's Lovebug over there with Salt and Pepper in them.
Yeah, Herbie.
Salt. We can't with that Kid and Play sound, that Salt and Pepper sound. That those things was extremely influential. You know what I mean? Not to mention Marley Marl and what he was doing over there in Queensbridge. And then what was going on with KRS and BDP up top, so everybody, the craft was at a point where it was so important. It was such about the integrity of the artistry and the true sincerity of the artist, right? What he's representing, what he's about, because you're not going to want to make music that when you walk outside your house, you can't represent, because people were getting their chains snatched, sneakers taken, it was that type of, it wasn't just shooting, but you would get roughed up, people would know it, I remember when Beat Street was out, and then the artist who was doing the break dancing, when he had the Kazals, used to hear stories that around his neighborhood he used to get roughed up because people looked at him as a star. And the street, it was different. The streets was different from the music. And then once the music and the streets kind of came together, it's like the streets left with the music, Right. And I think that's where some of the transition came.
Do you feel that? Because back then you had so many different labels that was doing exceptionally well, and over the past, let's say 2 decades, you have like Universal, Sony, and 2 others that basically bought out all these other record companies. So do you think that actually switched the paradigm of how music was being put out?
Well, absolutely, because basically all right. We had a lot of independent labels. So a lot of independent labels, you have multiple relationships, right? So now when you consolidate all the labels, right? Everything is coming through one channel. So when you enumerate it, everybody can't come through first, second, third, or fourth. Right. So then I could skew it. I could influence it. I could be like, well, you're my child. He's my friend's child. So you're gonna be in the house with me. So I'm gonna big you up on my platform because I got a love for you. Or you could be my child. That's my good child. That's my bad child. I'm gonna look out for my good child over my bad child. So it skews the relationship based upon the platforms that we're hearing it, right? And once the corporations got involved in it, that's what I was discussing before. It eliminates the purity of the music because now it's all about what's making money. Because now the one-hit wonders now will be different from the one-hit wonders at that particular time. Because this is a radio time, stream time, so you could come out with a little Nas X, right? And then little Nas X blow up, blah 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 blah. The corporations run with that, and they paint this whole story around this artist, and then 2 years later, you don't hear anything from him again. Where you'll have one record at that time, how it changed everything for everybody else. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you heard that? It's like when Kane came out with Raw, right? You had to stop and listen to that. When you had Snoop Dogg and Dre come out with was it Deep Cover, right?
Right.
These is like singles, or when Joe did Flojo as a promo on the radio. These are singles, and then when I didn't earlier we didn't mention the native tongues as influences and the Jungle Brothers as
Right.
influences and
Roxy too.
right. And I want to shout out to Cool Chip and Chuck Chillout because a lot of times they don't get the credit that they deserve, especially coming from Northeast,
He's Bronx.
Bronx, where we come from.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Too, I'm glad you said Northeast Bronx because we had King Fade on here from Shirt Kings, and we was talking about the talent above 180th Street all the way to Mount Vernon. There's so much talent that's not even tapped in up there, B.
For the most part, that's based upon the lack of industry influence at the time. You know what I mean? Because like Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, those are where those younger CEOs is coming out of, like to me. Like, your Russell, your Ty,
Right.
And they, because even brother Eric B, these people were already with the radio station and stuff like that. Shout out to Red Alert. So in my older days, recently, we'll discover like, okay, in the beginning when Kiss was playing music, they was Red Alert and Chuck Chillout was submitting tapes, right?
Right.
Where in Queens, Mr. Magic, Mr. Magic, he was playing the music live, and that just goes back to what you're talking about, right? With the talent in the Bronx not tapped into in comparison to when a brother like Magic is over there. He's in Queens, Queens, Brooklyn,
Right.
and that's more politically correct, and then or politically tied together based on proximity. Then you'll have, you have to go through Chuck Chillout. You know what I mean? From the Bronx to hear yourself. So
we got
like the outlets for that area was different. That's why we gotta give thanks to Red Alert, because Red Alert, he had the air in which he allowed raw talent to shine. He gave you an opportunity once he recognized your uniqueness. And I got to appreciate that because Red Alert gave us a lot of exposure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to go back for a second for what Zane was saying when Zane was talking about will we ever be able to kind of get back to that golden era. And I think that I don't see us getting back to that golden era because I agree with you. I think that once corporations became involved, hip hop became more so business oriented and more about capitalism.
Absolutely.
And I also think that one of the things that sometimes we get lost in is that music was a representation of those times, right? So now we look at the music now and what the quality of the music is now, and because we're a product of this time, but this isn't our time. This is the next generation's kind of time. So I wonder if we were having this conversation 20 years from now, if it would be the same thing. I'm sure like our kids would probably be saying like, damn, like, yo, I want to get back to the mid 2010s and the 2020s. This is because to me, it's just a product of the time. Like we talking about the 80s, and we were saying Melly Mel earlier. Melly Mel, all of his lyrics were basically infused with what we were experiencing in the neighborhoods in the Bronx. When you get into the 90s, you start talking about everything about, or late 80s into the 90s, the native tongues, and when it was proud to be black, and people wasn't rocking chains as much as they were rocking. Even the medallions was the thing to rock, and it was all about having skills and demonstrating you had skills. Now, hip hop to me, the trajectory is just about bragging about how much drugs you do, how much money you get, what kind of cars you have, twerking, and all those things. And I wonder if that's just a sign of like the evolution of or not the evolution, maybe the continuum of where the music is at, right? So I don't know if we're ever going to get back to that golden era, because I think it really was just about the time period. And I think one of the things that hip hop hasn't figured out how to do, that some of the other genres of music has been able to do, is that I think there are some hip hop songs that are timeless, but for the most part, us as consumers of hip hop, I think that we've become okay with hip hop being disposable. Like, you think about rock stars who may not have a hit record on the radio right now. People aren't calling them washed up; they calling them legends, and
Right.
they still selling out all these shows and going overseas and doing these big numbers. But we discard our hip hop pioneers. We discard them, and we like, oh, he's done, he's finished. So I think that that's more so about us as consumers of music and fans of the genres, how we begin to actually appreciate the craft. Because if we don't appreciate the craft and recognize that golden era and keep that golden era alive, then it's always just going to be on to the next.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And I can interject with that is I love all my artists. I still buy KRS-One. I still buy Sadat X. I still buy Puba. I still buy it all. I don't even fuck with none of the new shit. And then all my old loves, they still make quality music to this day. To this very day, son.
Okay. All right. Now I have to ask, what do you think that's about the music, or do you think it's about the narrative of the music? And how much of that has to do with us as a people and how we deal with each other as a family, as melanated people then, or as black people then, and it's about the love of self-love, respect, right? And then the merger of corporations, right? It's like hip hop could be like the news, right? You turn on the news, you see the news that they want to report, right? Meanwhile, somebody could have got robbed on the block, somebody could have got shot on the block, and no cameras is out there to show that part of it, right? So I think it's just the element of how we deal with ourselves as a culture, as a people, and I think that is just transcending into hip hop. And then, right, it's just, to me, it's just a microcosm of the world and its life right now. Right?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
To me, I think it's several things, but for the top three to me would have to be music on a broad basis, going from analog to digital. It'll be technology, because imagine if they had social media back in the 90s, right? Right, music could travel a lot faster. We wouldn't depend on maybe a handful of DJs that have these.
Arrested too, son.
You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't be having like a handful of DJs that have this great music, but we waiting for them to put it out, because right now a DJ, like say a Funkmaster Flex or Red Alert or whoever get these tracks, all these DJs trying to be the first ones to play it on their radio station, whether it's on terrestrial station or not. So if we had social media back then, I think things would have been way crazier. It would be like the stuff that we going through right now. It would have got saturated real quick.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say, well, I think that add to why we appreciated the music so much, because it wasn't everywhere, and it gave us, we was able to go like, yo, you got to go to the source to hear what's new, hear what's hot, right? So now, because that is digital and people take it for granted, because I want to just digress into the concept of pioneers being appreciated. When we would go overseas, people still appreciate those said pioneers, right?
And
vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but because we're here, people don't appreciate it. You know what I mean? It's like what's one man's treasure is another man's trash. Vice versa, what was one man's trash is somebody else's treasure. So it's just how we look at it, and it's up to us to teach the youth them about the generation. Like with my son, he 18. I go through a little drill with them right now. Like, yo, who was on Bad Boys lately? I mean, who was in Junior Mafia? But, you know what I mean? Because one thing I have to criticize us about Generation X is we didn't do the greatest job in teaching the culture or the tradition. We more was caught up in living it and going for what we knew. And I think that's problematic because we carry the culture. So if we don't tell the story, if we don't discuss the narrative, then other people are going to take the opportunity and do that. It's like we can't be mad if somebody else take our story because we're not telling our story.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's our responsibility as a culture. So like when brothers like you get together and say, yo, this is what we're doing, we got to respect it, right?
That's right.
That's what makes the difference, I believe.
yeah. And then the thing about it is when we allow others to tell a story, they put their narrative, they provide their narrative rather than with the actual story of it.
I mean, look at the world we live in now.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when I'm out and I'm looking at it like, look at this. 15 months ago, this wasn't our world. You know what I mean? So everything that we hear as far as information, how do we know what's true and what's not true? I mean, let's be real. What do we know? What do we know is fact? What's facts, right?
Yeah, right. That's true.
Who do we trust with this information that they're telling us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We fall away from the essence. So we just got to now, we just got to get back to the essence of who we are as universal beings so we can tap into that power, because right now we really by ourselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to just kind of veer off, but when you think about the information that we have and where we got it from, we can look into it and see it's very limited. Television, church, school, politics, right? And those narratives have been controlled for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's like now that you go to school, you pledge an allegiance to a flag. Now, when I look at it as a grown person, I look at that as indoctrination. Even American history, that's indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing with the music, you know what I mean? Fast forward, they're indoctrinating the music. It's the same thing that happened with rap. With rock and roll, with R&B. History is repeating itself. The trick is digital, right? We could be like, oh, we see a problem, we're going to address it. We can have this type of dialogue and bring these conversations to the table so we could associate everything with one another. Because when they teach us things episodic, right, you don't see a timeline. So that creates confusion, right? But when we could give you a timeline and make sense of what was happening along the way, then we have a stronger understanding of what happened.
Right. You can refer back to it and do your own.
Yeah, because you go into school, you're hearing about Christianity, you're hearing about dinosaurs, you're hearing about Christopher Columbus, you're hearing about slavery, then you're living in a particular time. When you're young, how do you put that time frame together?
Right.
It's not like they be like, well, this came first, then this, then that. They tell you Christopher Columbus discovered America, right? Then you get older, well, he never really came to North America. Then why y'all telling us all my years that he discovered America if y'all already knew that he didn't discover America? It's like, so when you really base certain things, all right, boom, I grew up with Rastafarians, right? And grew up with Christians, right? Now, you have in the Ross saying, Bun Babylon, Bun Pope Paul, but I don't know what they talked about. I'm like, well, my grandmother said, praise the Lord, Jesus, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. But then when you fly up in a plane, they tell you heaven. I flew when I was early. They tell you heaven was in the sky, hell is under the ground. Mm-hmm. Once I went up in the sky, and I was like, yo, I don't see heaven's gate. I don't see a sign of heaven. So now I'm confused, right?
That's right.
Then they tell you dinosaurs used to be here. So this is controlled confusion, bro. You know what I mean? And we see that in the music, right? You mentioned prior, all the older heads still make music, right? But you don't hear them because the corporations don't see the money in that. Mm-hmm. So basically, they're controlling the narrative of the music.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like now we got to go out there and go dig up and go find music and stuff like that. You know, I'm gonna say something that I know I'm running, but I'll say this. I miss 2000, like from 2000 to like 2015 music. I missed that whole era because I was thinking the music was dead, the mumble rap, this, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm looking, this Rock Marciano who was out there killing. You have all these, you know what I mean? You know, it's like,
there's a lot,
there's so I'm right now, I'm catching up. I'm excited with the pen, but look what happened. It's like, because of the radio, right? And I'm not buying mixtapes and not stuff like that. It's like, I'm just like, the music is dead, the music is gone. But it's just, I'm just viewing it from a radio level, from the access that I have, and the information that I have for who's putting out music that I would be checking for.
Yeah.
Right.
Now it's like, because of fans in them in Buffalo, they're like, ooh, you know, because of boom bap, right? When I heard the beats, it's the, you know, to me, like the Griselda music is the beats.
And it's
like,
slow,
the beats. So you hear these beats, and then you hear the spitting, and so now we trying to relate who sound like what, blah, blah, blah. You know, meanwhile, when the essence of people in New York at that time trying to sound like everybody else.
Yeah, the South and all that. Yeah.
I mean, but why? Because it's being dictated and controlled by different people. So when you have people dictating something and you want to be a part of it, you start to change, you start to adapt to the new thing so you can be a part of something.
You can be a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's where the danger starts. But if it was a fair race, right? We have an outlet for everybody, and then we could pick and choose who we like. You know, but you don't get a choice. It's like bread, right? You go, you like this particular bread, but then the company starts putting the bread out, right? What you gonna do? You gotta go, so you gotta look for something else to stop eating bread. You know what I'm saying? So it's that type of thing. I just think when the options become limited purposely, then you run into situations where we run into right now.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Interesting enough you say that, because you would think with the internet that we would have more access and we would have more availability and exposure to other things. Plus, with radio kind of being on its way out, like radio is not what radio once was. But I blame New York radio for destroying New York hip hop. Like New York radio, they really did a number on it. A lot of people throw it on the back of Ebro at Hot 97, but I don't think he was alone in that. I just think that New York, they were afraid to break new artists, and they played everything. They jumped right on the bandwagon. But the South, one thing I could say, I say also, like now I live in Connecticut. I spend a lot of time going back and forth to Georgia. And you look at where other states you go to, their radio format, it's far more, you know, there's far more variety on it. Like to me, New York, there's like probably 10 songs in rotation that they play every hour, just in a different arrangement of them, but you hear the same 10 songs all day on the radio.
You know why though, right? You know why, right?
Go ahead, Zane.
You go down to Manhattan, all them damn labels headquarters right down there in Manhattan. They not down in Georgia. They not in no other state.
Right. That's a fact. See, that's where the money coming, right? The corporation, that's where the damage is done, because New York is the Mecca. So those corporations, they're gonna constantly, because they are competitive. So they're gonna compete and do what they can. They lobbyists. It's a microcosm of the world, right? These corporations are lobbyists. There's only 3 people to massage. So it's like these labels the stations get spoiled, and then the bosses or the owners of the stations get spoiled, and they dictate to you what you should do, what you should say. This narrative that we're discussing is really not new, but it's great that we reiterate it every time we come down to court, because this is what destroyed the game. Sure. Lack of choice, lack of options, gatekeepers, right? Because I mean, Bad Boy, Def Jam, Sony Columbia. It's like as an independent artist, you can't go up there.
Yeah.
What you gonna do with that? And everybody's spending millions of dollars, and you coming with your $100, your $300 budget. You got to go to the college station. And even right now, to the point that you made about digital and DJ, But at this particular point, everybody's vying for your time in the digital world. It's like I can't listen to everybody who I want to listen to in this time because everybody's battling for your time digitally, right?
Yeah.
You got podcasts, you got your radio, you got your Spotify, you got your Apple Music. I mean, we got TV shows. Like, how much time of the day could you sit down and listen to all of this content that out there and then still live your life?
That's true.
Yeah.
It's difficult. You know, people. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, why'd you do a podcast?" Blah blah. Blah. I mean, how much people are other people going to listen to? It's like there's people I want to listen to, I still can't get to listen to. Because you gotta keep the lights on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, game is very oversaturated. One of the things I wanted to kind of change the subject about is that you started a clothing line, Miyoshi, back in the days. How did you get that started? And what kind of what information would you have for someone wanting to start their own fashion clothing line today?
All right, that's my brother Lennox. Shout out to Lennox, right?
Okay.
That's Lennox. Lennox. Basically, we was doing tailoring all the time up at 241st. When my father had the studio, my brother used to make pants, right? Then we incorporated making pants, making shirts, and suits. We ended up started printing MCM. So we known for linen suits. We was making outfits for the majority of the dance hall MCs, dance hall DJs at the time. So with that being said, when bro went to California, he connected with Rough Wear, and with the knowledge and information that he had for making clothes, and I run up at 241st Hollywood Fashion, he brought that information to California. He collaborated with Rough Wentworth. They was doing rough for a while, and then L decided to branch out and then do Miyoshi, and that's how that started. So it was like making custom pants to making custom suits. We running a business up there in the Bronx. Bro went to Cali, got with Wentworth. They did the rough, and then Fams broke out and did Miyoshi, and started with t-shirts at first. Then we started outfits, females outfits, athletic wear. Then we went into the denim and outfits and sweatsuits. That's how that went, like in order. As far as the clothing game, is interesting. Just like the big boy game from when I got there, because what I did was when I left, when I was jaded by the music, I went to Cali. I was doing marketing and promotion for nationally for Fam and the Miyoshi brand, but a lot of people don't even know that part, to be honest with you. And I didn't, it was rock. It was at that time it was like rock star life, right? You had Puba. Fubu was like the big dog in the building. Then you had you had the Mecca's, you had the Sean Johns, you had Rockefeller and all of them. But the key to that is having a real designer, right? Designer having resources to what you do is with the clothing is like everything else. You start from something, you master that, you add on to it. So we started with the t-shirts. We created your logo, your branding, because the principles is going to be still the same. You got to have your branding, right? You have to have your blueprint, and then you got to have the administrative aspects of it where you can execute things in a timely manner. And that's how I looked at that. We had the people who made samples. You have sample makers. You have an idea. You illustrate your idea. You get somebody to bring that idea to life, whether it be like, you have a logo idea, you bring it to life. You look at it, you say, okay, we like this, and then you mass produce it. You mass produce it domestically, it'll cost more. You send it overseas, it costs less. It's just about having relationships again with manufacturers who could take your sample, mass produce it, and package it in a timely fashion that you could get it out to the consumer. Because with the clothing industry, you have seasons, you have multiple seasons, then you have multiple sizes. So timing is important when you're coming out the gate. You know what I mean? It's like, you have 2 drops for spring, you have 2 drops. Generally, you have 2 drops for every season. You got your fall 1, fall 2, spring 1, spring 2, summer 1, summer 2. So
and
you want to
ahead, right?
Yeah. So and you are a year ahead. So you have clothing conventions like Magic. Like it should be a big thing. I removed myself from those things, but this was at this time, so I could just give you that. And then anybody else who's more modern is more likely the same or very similar. But you have the Magic conventions. You have the vendors, the retailers. They come, they walk around. It's like a big flea market or it's the lab. Like Magic is like the clothing company lab where the retailers come and be like, oh, I like this. I think this will sell good at my store because the retailers have a relationship with their customers.
Right.
They like this. And then it's for you. When they pick it, it's okay. I like this denim. I like this outfit. They need it at their particular place at a particular time. And then you want to be out the gate when they need it so you could. So they use the square footage. They use the square footage that they provide for you as a clothing company, right, to get your product out to the people. You know what I mean? So it's like it's the same. The business principle is the same. You got to have your branding. You got to have your marketing, but your product is important. Timing and when it drop is important. You know?
Right. Yes, sir.
But that Miyoshi stuff was it was a whole different era because we left East Coast, West Coast, and I created a lot of relationships over there like that. So you was running into a lot of the same people at that time. It was an interesting run over there, man. That Miyoshi stuff was big. We used to have a tour bus. It was like rock and roll life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
It was rock and roll life, and it was good to see like all the young brothers coming together and branching out. But to me, another thing, once corporations got involved in it, the big boys came in and they do what they do. They do what they do. Now look at it. You see Sean John, as we speak, 2021, Puffy suing Sean John, right?
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? So it's like
I saw that. I said, "Oh man!"
But it just shows you how the game goes. Like you lose control at a certain part, and then at times, we as a consumer on the bottom of the pyramid don't realize how the relationships is built. So a lot of times people attach their names to things, but they really don't have any ownership. But because their name is affiliated, you make money off of your name. And then when that relationship comes to an end, then everybody starts to show their true colors. Then it's a free for all. You know what I mean?
So to be honest with you, the key word is ownership. Own your masters, own your brand, own your label, own your logo. Keep it yours.
Yeah, but I tell you this, it sounds easy and it sounds good, right? But they're not gonna just pick you up when they feel like you know too much. Because the key is this: if you know as much as you know, you don't need us. You can figure it out on your own.
Right.
We're gonna go out there and get somebody who we gotta brush up, dust off, tell them what they want to do, and they're gonna listen. You know what I mean? Because if you know too much, then you're gonna give us too much talk. You're gonna want points. You're gonna want what you're supposed to have, and we don't have time for that. You know what I mean? Like you want me to treat you like my child, and I want to treat you like a client. You know what I mean? And you're there for the love. That's why I was like, yo, when you go to these things, huh?
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. So that's why when you go into these situations, if you're not organized to demand what you want and with your own value, then a lot of times you got to accept what you have, and then you sacrifice a portion of what you're doing and trust yourself and your skill to get you past a certain point.
Right.
Now, I'm definitely glad you said that because prime example is the great story that Percy Miller did, aka Master P, when he said that Interscope offered him $1 million. He said, damn, when Jimmy Iovine offered him $1 million, he said, damn, if this guy offered me $1 million, I could do it on my own because it's definitely something that Jimmy Iovine saw in Master P as far as his marketability, his music, his movement. So I'm very glad that Master P was one of the few that actually turned down money like that and actually took the time out. Yeah, I mean it'll take a longer time, but at the end of the day, Master P definitely had made the right decision to turn down that $1 million, because he might have made 400 million, if
Yeah,
not more.
he's the blueprint. So
Yeah,
it's like, but people may not revere Master P as they revere like a Dr. Dre, right?
right.
You know what I mean? So it all depends on your knowledge of what it's all about. I mean, because to own it, you have to start from somewhere. You can't own something or demand something if you need help to get to where you need to go. So that's the trick of it all. It's like the vulnerability in a situation as a person or as a company. The more you have to bring to the table is the more negotiating power you have to work with out the gate. And everybody is not starting on the same level. So that's the trick about ownership. It's like it's almost like if Amazon come to you guys right now, let's say, okay, or MTV or Charlemagne, yo, I wanna get with your podcast right now and put it on my platform. Now you got to do your own evaluation now, right? What's really gonna happen, and then or sometimes they want to like, okay, well, you don't want to sell it to us, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at everything you did and we're gonna bite it. We're gonna steal it. Like Master P, right? Like, okay, you didn't want to take our $1 million, so we're gonna go down the block and offer him $500,000. You know what I mean? And he's gonna take his $500,000 and he's gonna give me what you got, so I could tap into your market. You see how it goes?
Yeah.
So it's us as a people. We have to revere. We have to learn how to love ourselves, bro. Because we'll never be able to hold anything if we don't respect and love ourselves. And that's what we got to teach the kids, because it's hard. It's not easy to tell, because my son, I always complain about people don't listen. I'm at an age where I'm not even arguing with nobody, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. It's like I'm asthmatic. Every breath means something. It's like I don't want to waste my time because I know what I know, right? So it's like, and everybody gonna feel, and then nowadays it's like people don't have no respect, no order. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So everybody want to be heard, and I respect it. I'm a great listener. I like to listen, but when I get the opportunity to drop some gems or the vibe, I'm gonna do that because it's not many times I'm gonna do that because I don't have time to. I speak to the deaf. I wrote recently. I speak to the deaf, and they don't hear me. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, we gonna listen to each other. Hopefully, the younger generation that you referred to earlier, they can listen to it. It's like, listen to the OGs, man. We not our grandmama's we not that type of grandparent. We are hip hop. You know what I mean? We grade, we hip hop. I'll rhyme right now. You know what I mean? This is what we love. We are carrying a culture. This is passion right here. This is what the 80s and the 90s did to us. We were like, listen, we are going to keep this story pushing forward because it can get lost. When I think about Enoch, that's why I referenced the Bible earlier. Enoch, right? In the Bible that we are in right now, what people follow the most, Enoch is only mentioned one time, right? But when Enoch lived, I mean, for over hundreds and hundreds of years, he was the man, right? So it just depends on where you're getting your information to what you're going to be exposed to.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? So it's like
be in the right circles, in the right places, to get the right knowledge to look for. And if not, you can easily be misled.
Elvis is the king of rock and roll right now, right?
Yeah. So when you guys did Strictly Roots, you did Strictly Roots independent, but after you did something solo with Nervous, correct?
Yeah, that Nervous Funk Master Flex told me to go over there.
You don't look excited about that.
Well, I mean, nervous was a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, all right. Nervous was good because it taught me why I was independent, right? And it also made me understand how much control that we don't have in certain arenas, right? And it also made me learn a lot about integrity as well, right? Because it was a scenario where they were like, "Oh well, tell people your album is coming next year, right?" But I'm like, "Well, but we didn't even discuss the album budget, right? So it's like, you know what I mean? So maybe if I told them that the album was coming next year, maybe we would have had a better relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I'm like a Master P type, right? It's like the only reason why I'm up here is because I did some stuff from before this. You know what I mean? And so the people respect who I am when I walk in a building. I want to be the same person when I leave the building. But because y'all don't know it because it's not on the big label or whatever, or y'all just want to throw some change out there because y'all could get more spins for me, or y'all have more contacts than I do. But It's like at the same time they beefing with their main artists, right? I'm up there and they're beefing with Black Moon and Smith and Wesson and them, right? So it's like for my people. So it's like when I see this is what's happening, and then y'all telling me to go do something that's against who I am, then I see where this is where the integrity coming. Because some people gonna go in there, whatever you say, man, whatever you say, I'll go there and then say whatever and then hope for the best. You know what I mean? But it was a good situation because it just got me more exposure. You know what I mean? It's like it wasn't my money spent now on the market. It wasn't our money spent on doing certain things. But at the same time, it's like it has its limits because if they didn't believe in me as an artist per se, then they'd be like, "Yo, the budget is 20,000. That's it. We're not going no more, no less, no wiggle room, no nothing." You know what I mean? And that's what it is because. Even with Much They Pay, like the Much They Pay was an extremely impromptu session. I went in the session thinking about we going in one direction. It's almost like yo, tomorrow you have tomorrow and Chris, we're gonna get together and we're gonna do a song. So when I went, I wrote lyrics in advance of that. But as me personally, I like to spend time with my lyrics because I wasn't the greatest. I wasn't the greatest recording artist. You know what I mean? I was a real strong live entertainer, right? But as a recording artist, I evolved. You know what I mean? I had to evolve because it's like you could write something, right? But the sound of it when you go and record it, it's probably not coming across the way you heard it in your head when you wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So when you have time with something like certain people, that's why you hear like artists like, "Oh, I got a lot of records that I didn't put out." You know what I mean? But Much They Paid wasn't really like that. Much They Paid was lyrics that I used my style that I banged it out at the time because it's like I understood the opportunity that was at hand, right? And I was skilled enough and I had the talent to do it. At the same time, it wasn't like a Michael Jackson record where you had 4 or 5 mixes and you sitting down. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo,
the house, the club.
This is what it is. We getting ready to go knock this out, and you know what to do. You know what I mean? And so that's why, as a record, so it's just very interesting. You know what I'm saying? But some people will be like, "Oh, that's my best record," but to me, it could be my best record, but it's not my best recording. You know what I mean? Because I look at like Enjoy Yourself. Like Enjoy Yourself, to me, that was a hell of a recording. You know what I mean? Because I was able to display myself more. Where I could show my skill versus showing my talent. It's like it's similar but not the same.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So how did you put that together?
Well, I know it was a multi-tiered relationship, right? Fam was already up there. Mad Lion was up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom. But at the same time, it's like, my shorty and stuff was work. He did. I knew Chris through his wife, right? Because my shorty was doing her hair. So it was like I was strictly roots, that's KRS, we was there. So we spoke about collaborating, right? And then because of the relationship, right, with Nervous that KRS had at the time, it just made it that much easier to be like, yo, okay, we're gonna book the session tomorrow. When we gonna do it and knock it out, right? But if me and Fan would have massaged that, that scenario, we probably would have did it different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, so they put some money in some studio time. Like, word, they gonna do that? All right, tomorrow we're gonna go in there, we're gonna bang it out, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
That's how that went. Versus, all right, yo, we went up and down. All right, this is the joint we're gonna do together. With Puba now, me and Puba ran up and down more. Like we used to go drink more. We used to be at the Sharks bar.
Mm-hmm.
I remember some classic days, like me and Kid, Puba in there drinking them Long Island iced teas. Those are the days, though, son. You know what I mean? You at the Sharks bar chilling. Then a lot of people pass through.
It's funny you said that because I was going to ask you that also. Like, how'd you end up with Fat Joe and Puba on Beg No Friends?
Well, because we was all right. Now, let's talk hip hop. Me and hip hop. There's a group named True Culture that was
I remember.
New Sounds. New Sounds is a group from the Valley that rock is part of the hip hop museum right now. Rock is from the Valley. Him and Jazzy J had a label named Strong City, right? In Strong City, you had Busy B, Brucey B was over there. You had Masters of Ceremonies was over there. And there was a couple other brothers, but you had Chaz Rich and you had Colin over there, right? And basically, something happened where Colin wasn't with the group anymore, so Chaz Rich and Rashid that's the person who me and Strictly Roots. We formulated Strictly Roots. So I say all of that to say that Fat Joe was in the studio at that time doing this album. And so we had a relationship because we were up there doing music at that time. Well, I wasn't. I was doing some writing, and I did a collaboration on the New Sounds album. But we was up there during the Strong City time, New Sounds time. So people was always coming through. That's why I was able to meet Showbiz and AG. I met Coogee Rap up there. Busy B, Brucey B was up there. And those times I was younger, so like Brucey B and Busy B, they was legends at that time. I was just happy to be there because it was all Arlington Avenue. The studio was on Arlington Avenue in the Bronx.
Yeah.
So that is in Northeast Bronx. That's my part of town. You know what I'm saying? So we was able to. So that's what really happened. Puba was in there. That's where I met Sadat X. That's where Brand New Benz, right? They Lord Jamal. They started their work up in there as well. So we was doing work as artists all in the same place, and they did because my work was done in the studio in Jersey, my pop's joint. You know what I mean? But that's how we familiarized each other. And then we became familiarized with each other. And then there's political endeavors after that.
Where did Chill Will come from?
Well, Chill Will was with fashion because see, with the label, with the French Connection label, it was Biggs and Rohan, DJ Fashion. DJ Fashion, he did a lot of stuff. He used to produce for he did the 3 joints. He did the New Sound album. He did the Strictly Roots album. He did the True Culture album, right? True Culture was on Cardiac Records at the time. They did Rude Boys Come to Play, and but they had the True Culture. They put me on their album as well, and New Sounds. I was on the New Sounds album. So I say that to say that's when the mixtape culture was around, right? and everybody was doing mixtapes and stuff like that. So we built a relationship with Chill Will, especially him in fashion. So it was just a nice gumbo to come together because Beg No Friends actually, the original Beg No Friends is on the album, and the Beg No Friend that everybody know is a remix. You know what I mean? Because the first single that we put out off of the Strictly Roots Beg No Friends album was the Duck the Boys in Blue anti-police brutality song. You know what I mean? And it's interesting because the psychology behind the music that we was making at that time was Bob Marley music, Marvin Gaye music, right? Signs of the Times music that will last forever. Where I feel like the Beg No Friends remix song was it was a mood. It's like this. It was more of an attitude, right? But this is how we feel in a certain scenario. It's not like every day you don't feel like, man, I'll throw somebody off the roof or I would do this. But that's when you're in a particular temperament, right? You have good, bad, and ugly. So that's how I look at it. So that's how we got together. We was all in the same studio that in that one era when everything was happening. I met even Diamond D. I met up there. He's the one who actually did the Enjoy Yourself beat, although he didn't get the proper credit he deserves.
Wow. Yo, will you remember BDP?
What is that?
Will you remember Boogie Down Productions?
No, I passed by. I think at one time I was like I'll be like I was affiliated with BDP.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think this article kind of messed up that relationship because in the source, right? KRS was doing the lectures and stuff like that. So some writer wrote, "Oh well, with Marilyn doing the reggae, and then KRS doing the no, it was Mad Isms, right? Mad Ism was out, Marilyn was out, Must They Pay was out, and then KRS was out, but he was doing lectures. So the dude, somebody wrote, with Dion, with Broadway on the streets, Broadway running the streets, and it was like, KRS competitive. He ain't gonna want to hear, he got the streets. I mean, he did one song, now he got the streets. So, it was funny, but it was a blessing though, and it's always love. You know what I mean? So I was affiliated, but Strictly Roots, Valley Mall. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Broadway. That's how we do it. Not even attempting to piggyback off of this or piggyback off of that. You know what I mean? And it's all love, bro. Trust me.
Yeah, I noticed you did some production with Dad and Dub C on the West Coast. Talk about that a little bit.
It was more LT hunting. I really LT didn't really like when I was on the West Coast. Nobody really knew who I was. You know what I mean? It's like I was making joints, but it wasn't like the digital world where we at right now. Right. So when I was in, I got an opportunity. So I got son, I did so much recording in Cali that nobody that won't be heard. Right? I was recording my man Chase. Man, Chase did like 3 albums, at least two to three. I did at least like one joint with LT Hunting in his studio over there, but it never panned out the way it could have. You know what I mean? Which is fine because I still have the recordings, right? And I still enjoy them myself. You know what I mean? Got the experience. Right. But it was one of those things where I was in a building. I wasn't really trying to be like, yo, this is who I am. Woo. I just made the music for the love of the music. I got them, and I'm happy with that.
Nice.
Do you ever have a few dream collaborations? And tell me about the actual tour or show life. What are your most memorable moments?
Dream collaborations. I would like to work with Chronics. I would like to work with Chronics. I would work with Chronics. I like the new artists. I would like to do a joint with Ghost.
One of my favorite artists right there of all time.
Ray on something. Maybe me and DMX on something. You know what I mean? Me and me like in Luch or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see, yeah,
Some of these singers, I like a lot of the new artists that's out right now as far as singers go. I like Her. I like I like a lot of artists, man. But Ghost, Chic, Ray, you know what I mean? Probably I'll say Conway, because Conway will be like, cause
yes.
Conway gonna go mega hard. He gonna do this Conway thing, and it's gonna be me. It's gonna be me representing everything that we represent. So
Right.
it'll be dope because he a pen man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like an MC. It's like when I listen to the MC, I'm like, yo, this is an MC. Bro.
And see, yeah.
It's an MC. You know?
Putting them bars together.
Yeah, no, it's just everybody gonna be like, oh, I like to do this. I think rock too. Rock Marciano would be dope.
One of my favorite
Yeah.
too. Rock Marciano. Also, you ever heard of Kai from Brownsville? Or Brownsville Kai?
Yes.
That dude is dope, man. Brownsville Kai.
Yeah, Brownsville Kai. I listened to him recently within the last month, actually. I picked up Kai because you see, this is what I was telling you about. Like I missed the whole 2010, and now I'm kind of like catching up. And I'm like, ooh. Because it's about writing. And rest in peace to MF Doom. Like when I listen to MS Doom's pen too, we're like, woo. You know what I mean? He's like, he catching everything. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
Because as a writer. I could be like, I walk down the street, I walk down the busy street, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the difference between like somebody just rapping and somebody who's a writer, right? I walk down the street. A writer gonna be like, yo, I diddy bop down the street, you know what I mean? It's like by the time you get from just walking down the street, you're gonna know what street he on. It's a busy street, what he's seeing. I was in my den walking down the street, my stomach hurt. It's like, that's a writer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rapper will be like, I just walked down the street and I was moving my feet and you see what I'm saying? So it's like, anybody could, yes, that part, anybody, that's when people are like, oh, anybody could do that.
MC is more intricate.
Descriptive.
More
yeah, that's that. Yo, when me and you buck up, you're gonna be like, yo, I know he gonna come with some deadly, and I gotta answer back with some deadly. Now it's like, okay, the endurance of how we gonna do it, Because like one of the best, when Biggie used to, like that's one thing I like about when Biggie was in his prime, right? I just heard this story recently through Clark Kent was talking about the Brooklyn's Finest. I thought that was a very interesting story, and even when Method Man and Biggie got on the what, I could listen to those sessions and just laugh all the time because I just hear them just going at it, you know what I mean?
Right.
It was going at it,
Ball for ball, that's right.
Bar for bar. So those are the things, and I really enjoyed Rock and Rock, right?
Yeah. Shout out to P. Rest in peace, man.
Yeah.
Man, when Rock and Rock used to go in there, my God, it was crazy in there. You know what I mean? It's like, as an MC, man, you gotta be, and like Wu-Tang was dead. So it's like, as MCs, you respect the craft and you respect yourself to be sincere in everything you put on that paper. You know what I mean? Like you writing something where you could put your life behind, and people gonna respect that forever. That's how I look at the art, the game.
Can you tell me this real quick? Can you tell me this from first, second to third? First being the total best out of the, well, I ain't gonna say, all right, I ain't gonna put too much politics behind it. Coogee Rap, Kane, Rakim, first, second, or third. When it all come down to it.
Zane, stay pop quizzing somebody.
No, that's a good question. Okay. I'm gonna say Rakim. I'm gonna say Rakim. I'm gonna say Rakim. This is a nice one. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go. All right, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna explain why. I'm gonna say Rakim, King, Cool G Rap. Right now, Cool G Rap is one of the nicest MCs ever. I mean, he Poison. It's a demo. I rhymed over those beats.
Hill Street Blues.
Yeah, I mean, so, and the only reason why, right, somebody got to come first, somebody come second, somebody got to come third. Rakim is because Rakim changed everything with his sound, right? And plus he's the God, right? So the knowledge of self that he was bringing, and his overall uniqueness, right? Now, right, and they all interchangeable. This is just why. And then Cool G Rap is not. I honestly, they all mega nice. So I guess if I drink, it's gonna be if I drink, it's gonna be Cool G Rap. If I smoke, it's gonna be Rakim. You know what I mean? If I'm sober, it's gonna be King. You know what I mean? It's just a move because they all are nice. Because when you think about that pen, it's a demo, and the wit that G Rap was putting down. It's just that I base it on the longevity, right? But even 4, 5, 6 when he did the Fast Life with 9, so I don't know. That's more like an essay question. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have to. I would like to do my research on that.
You can't get that. There's no way to get that wrong.
It's just gonna be a matter of opinion, man. Because honestly, I knew where I was at when I heard Raw. I was in the Bronx. I was actually at Caldors, close to the UPS on Boston Road.
Shout out to Caldors over the
right. And when I heard Raw, right, he said, he's like, I'm genuine like Gucci, raw like sushi, the rage is thing. I just didn't know what to do with myself. After that, it's like I just sat there and ponder. As an MC, you just sit down there and ponder. He's like, okay, how did he just do all of that? You know what I mean? Especially, you coming from Melly Mel, right? You come, let's just say the blueprint, right? Melly Mel. And then you hear King, like what he did with this sentence and phrase. How did you know what I mean? It's like that was crazy. And then how they that writing, that pen and the style, right? Rakim had his style, and he had that pen. You know what I mean? Kane was versatile, right? And then Cool G Rap was raw. I mean, nobody can take nothing away from any of them. Them brothers stand up historically.
Is it just son of artist? I was asking, isn't just son of artist?
Yeah, Trizzy nice, man. Trizzy nice and meek. Because Trizzy, man, versatile. It's like Trizzy was moving forward when I was stuck in the 90s, right? So he was, you know what I mean? He was coming in some stuff. I was like, no, that's not it. You know what I mean? Like, you got to sound so, but he, as far as creativity, because he started producing, Trizzy will sing. You know what I mean? Like, he'll sing. And I'm not going to go sing. You know what I mean? That's why I say he's better, because of the versatility. But, we definitely, I love listening to the stuff that we do together, that we did together. Nice. Because when I tell him right now, I call him right now, like, yo, son, this is nice. I mean, because when he was 13, 14 years old, he would have all these projects. I'm like, yo, the Lincoln on campus. Then he had his own group, fully focused game. You know what I mean? So I just we just piggyback off of each other. And then what Triz did, he brought the Beg No Friends in the new era, right? So he carried on tradition.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of that. I'm happy that he did that. You know what I mean? So we fully focused music group, always busy, Barnes Boys. So we are who we are as our own entity. We don't piggyback. I'm carrying on a musical tradition from my father. All right, so it's like we 3G flexing, 3 generation flexing.
That's
So
right.
we, so it's real. You know what I mean? But Triz is nice, son. Triz just I just he's his own worst critic
Mhm.
Okay, that's the best
in my
place to
book.
be, man. That's right.
But if you could always look him up, he's nice, son. He's nice, talented. You know what I mean?
Yo, when you get a chance, tag me on my IG, man.
All right, I'm gonna do that, man.
So what's
Yeah,
next for
man.
Dion Broadway?
What up, God?
What's next for Dion Broadway?
Man, attempting to refocus on. I'm starting to refocus on what I was doing in advance of COVID. I'm attempting to get to do a project, do a Strictly Roots project, just just because of the music and because of the relationship that me and Raj got. We want to do a little like YouTube series. We was talking about Strictly Roots. That I think it's a dope idea. Right now, me and my wife and I are working on our own line of products. Though Deanna Nicole, cause she a genius. All I gotta do is just market and manage. You know what I mean? But as far as creating and ideas, um, she's a genius, man. It's like we're just gonna put it out there. We're gonna get the bag because financial freedom is the key, right? Then we could implement stuff and get things done. Because I'm loyal to a fault. So my thing is I know what it takes to get things done. You know what I mean? I've been in get things done situations,
Mhm.
and that's what it's about. So right now, it's about attempting to get this Strictly Roots project off the ground and done for the family and for the legacy. Get this Deanna Nicole project to the level where it needs to be. You know,
What are those products you have with your wife?
so well, those are more beauty products.
Okay.
Beauty products, so I don't really, I'm not the right marketing person for beauty products. You know what I mean? The ideas, yes, but like, oh, here go these mink lashes. That's not good marketing.
Right.
But yeah, and my and the Bull Wacky's music stuff. I've been working on that stuff, attempting to archive it, organize it to maintain that legacy on a level where so the music live on forever, and we control the catalogs because it's like the Wacky's music brand is like it's endless. I mean, he got so many songs he didn't even put out yet. So so the last couple of years I spent a couple of years just marketing my Sky Barnes, which is my sister. Sky is mad nice. So I've been marketing those those songs, and I've been attempting to
Guy Bond?
Sky Barnes.
Bond is a billion of y'all.
Yo, and it's like I got my nephews is nice on the mic. You know what I mean? Louis Lano on the mic. I got my younger brother. I got my nephew. I got my sons. So it's like, yo, that's why I want to create I need to create that foundation where create that platform, right?
Right.
Where when people is looking for it, and when we putting it out to the world, that they could definitely access it, and then the youngsters could carry on the legacy, carry on tradition.
That's a
You
fact.
know, there's a lot of work to be done. It's just I just hope time ain't running out for real though. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we connect in politics, ditto. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Because they say I don't know what we living in right now. I'm not really sure. This is all new stuff to us. We wearing masks in the street, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We was like, this is I don't know. Are we wearing masks because of COVID, or are we wearing masks because they want to see if they could get all of us to wear masks?
That's a
I
good question.
really don't know what's going on. You know, it's Terminator time, gentlemen. Man versus machine, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Hey
we got
Dion,
to.
tell people how they can get in touch with you, man.
Well, you can
Emails
hit
or
me on the
social media.
gram, you know, Dion Broadway, Dion Broad on the gram right now. That's it. My Twitter, I like to keep my Twitter to myself so I can say anything I want to say. But really though, it's really just on the gram right now. I have a Facebook, but I don't check it. I looked at it like from once my mother-in-law got on Facebook. I was like, it's over. You know what I mean?
They all on there, bro.
It's really like it's just a joke. You know what I mean? But Instagram, you know, you can catch me in my comments in my videos, mustard pay, you know, and beg no friends. I like looking at the comments and laughing. You know what I mean? Like, and just feeling the appreciation because I tell you one thing, if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't allow myself to be jaded by the industry. You know what I mean? I just felt like this is
Not wait.
people don't know what it's really about. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can catch me on the gram, man. Dion Broadway. You can catch me at Deanna Nicole. You can on the gram too. I'm behind the scenes on that. I'm in the cuts, man, but I ain't hard to find at the same time. I just want to get things done. I fell back for a minute, and within the last 3 years, I just been making like little moves to solidify certain things out. But I really wanted to push certain things legacy wise. So I really fell back and tried to get this my father's stuff in order, that Bo Wacky's music stuff in order. I think that being a foundation, I feel like that's a big monolithic task to handle, you know, because my pops is still an artist. You know what I mean? We all artists in our own way, so we're not gonna move unless we feel like that's the song for us. You know what I mean?
Right. That's right.
That's about that though, man. But everything is blessed though. I want to thank y'all for having me. I'm not
Thank
gonna
you.
do too. I'm not gonna do too many of these. I did one. I did one during COVID. I don't. You know, because I don't want people to ask me too much questions because I can't talk too much. You know, too much bad boy thing for real. You know, when I look at certain things, I say, man, I'm it's like you ever heard of 6 degrees of separation?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I'm like 2 degrees of separation. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it's not like I'm chilling. It's not like I'm chilling with my army around me right now. You know what I mean? I'm in the cuts, so I don't want to say nothing that I'm gonna have to figure out how to defend it. You know?
You know, we appreciate you taking time out to join us.
Nah, it was real. It was real. It's always a blessing to dialogue about realness, music, fashion, which is hip hop. Hip hop is us as a people. We gotta learn ourselves. We gotta tap into our own magic. If I could leave the people with something, I just want them to think about what they've learned and where they've learned it from, and and think about if you could believe that source or if you could look deeper for yourself and tap in, because we definitely children of the universe, right? And we've been limited to just think about ourselves in our own little tribes, and it's been done like that on all scales. Hip hop is just a microcosm of us as a people. You know, we don't even know we call each other black, right? What's that? You know what I mean? Like, what flag you represent? Where we come from? Black land? Like, you know what I mean? Asians come from Asia. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You get the drift. You know, it's like, yo, everybody come from. So Italians come from Italy. You know,
Mhm.
Chinese come from China. Where blacks come from? That's made up. So we gotta have knowledge of self. You know what I mean?
We come from everywhere.
And we always been here.
Yo,
You know,
D.
it's like it's the biggest trick for somebody to convince you that the land that you've been on, that you're a stranger on, right? It's like, and that takes genius though, and wizardry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yo,
Yeah.
Right there, wizardry. That's what it
yo,
is.
yo, D. I got a cameo for you, D. 1 second, yo. You want to come and say hi?
Well, boss lady, you know.
What's up, man? Good to see your face.
Yeah, but you already know, cuz you know how we do it, man. You know, we have to do it. We have to do it for the family first, and then we definitely got to do it for the culture. You know what I mean?
Of course. Everybody good?
Everybody good. You see that family tree back there?
I see that. That's beautiful, man. I love
That's the ancestors back there, man. You know what I mean?
that.
That's what's up.
If you don't know where you're coming from, you ain't gonna know where you're going, bro. That's you know, if we deal with everything as principle, that's what it is, right? It's like that's what this hip hop is all about. That's what this dialogue is all about. We got to let them know what it is. We got to document this stuff because Elvis was the king of rock and roll, man. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
You know, and so if we are walking a real deadly path right now to end up in that same scenario if we don't protect the music, you know, but
Right.
definitely the culture because it's been infiltrated. But we here though, right?
We
No
here.
idea, no ideas new is here too. So we're gonna work to the anti bullshit movement.